Welcome back to the Growth Equation. Today we're diving into an idea that fundamentally transforms how we think about learning and self-improvement, the compound interest of knowledge. It's a powerful analogy, isn't it, guest? Can you walk us through how this financial principle applies directly to our brains?
Absolutely, host. When you look at finance, compound interest is the secret to long-term wealth. You earn interest, and then your interest also starts earning interest. That's the compounding effect. If we shift that to the mind, consistency in learning is our compound interest. Every small piece of information, every daily reading session, every practice session doesn't just add to your knowledge, it multiplies the value of all your existing knowledge by connecting with it. It's an exponential return on intellectual capital.
That makes perfect sense. It's not about the size of the deposit, it's about the frequency of the deposit. And the science actually backs this up, right? I'm thinking specifically about the famous forgetting curve in psychology.
You hit on the most critical scientific point. The forgetting curve is brutal. If you do an intense 6-hour study session on a Monday, you'll likely lose 80% of that information by the weekend. Think of that as a high-risk investment that vaporizes. But if you take those same 6 hours and distribute them into short, say, 30-minute sessions over 10 days, your retention increases exponentially. It's a low-risk, high-assurance, long-term investment in your memory.
Wow, that shift from intensity to distribution is profound. So if we're consistently making these micro deposits, what are the actual mechanisms in the brain that make this compounding possible?
There are 3 key mechanisms. First, there's accumulation. Those short, frequent sessions allow information to consolidate properly into long-term memory. That's your daily reinvestment. Second, connection. Spaced repetition forces the brain to form stronger, more resilient neural pathways. This is the moment a concept from history connects with one from economics, giving you a totally new insight. That connectivity is your real return. And finally, relevance. If you consistently review, say, financial principles, that knowledge is accessible immediately during a crisis, giving you an automatic decision-making advantage.
I love that. Accessible knowledge is powerful knowledge. Let's get actionable. How do our listeners start applying this today, especially when we all feel like we don't have enough time for massive study sessions?
We need to abandon the idea of the heroic sacrifice and embrace the power of the small. The best practical framework is the 1% rule. Don't aim for a quantum leap. Focus only on improving by just 1% every single day. That tiny, consistent improvement compounded over a year translates to an accumulated gain of 3,700%. That's the math of compounding applied effort.
3,700%. That's incredible. But I think the single biggest barrier for most people is that initial friction, that resistance to starting. How do we defeat that feeling when we look at a big task?
That initial resistance is what we call loss aversion in behavioral economics. The pain of starting a big task outweighs the perceived long-term value. The solution is the strategy of microsteps. Think of the Pomodoro technique. Commit to 25 minutes, not 2 hours. It's short enough that your brain doesn't put up a fight, but long enough to build a meaningful neural connection.
That turns an overwhelming task into a manageable habit.
Exactly. And you can anchor it through habit stacking. Try, after I drink my morning coffee, I will read 1 page of that industry report. You anchor the new habit to an existing routine, eliminating the need for constant motivation. And then there's Jerry Seinfeld's famous don't break the chains trick. Just put an X on a calendar every day you complete your micro goal. You're gamifying your consistency.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. And speaking of the marathon, let's talk about the point where most people quit, the learning plateau, that frustrating period where progress seems to stop. What's happening there?
That plateau is the silent point of true mastery. When it happens, the intensity-driven person gives up, but the consistent person pushes through. Here's why. The brain is actually transitioning from conscious learning, which is slow and effortful, to subconscious learning, which is fast and automated. Weak neural connections are being pruned, and the strong ones, built by repetition, are being rapidly myelinated. That's the brain creating high-speed intellectual pathways.
So if you stick with it through the frustrating weeks, you come out the other side with an integrated, automated skill. That's a great piece of advice. Before we wrap up, do you have a classic case study that demonstrates this compounding principle in the real world?
The best example has to be Warren Buffett. His success isn't due to sporadic intensity. It's due to an unbreakable daily routine of consistency. He still dedicates about 80% of his day to reading and thinking. He doesn't read in intense bursts. It is a decades-long, continuous education habit. This consistent access to information and analysis is what has given him the expertise to evaluate complex businesses. His knowledge is the ultimate compounded asset.
That's the takeaway. Consistency builds mental muscle, intensity just burns energy. A quick summary for our listeners. What are the 3 key steps they should take right now?
First, identify the friction. Use microsteps like 15 to 25 minutes to defeat the resistance to starting. Second, chain your habits. Anchor your learning to an established routine, like coffee or lunch. And third, trust the plateau. Progress hasn't stopped. The brain is automating the skills, so persist with your rhythm. Your knowledge is your most valuable asset, host, but like any asset, it requires discipline.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. And to our listeners, start your micro step today. We'll catch you next time on The Growth Equation.